for coming.
Hi, hello.
Thank you, Marky, for
great movie.
appreciation.
Same.
Does anyone have any questions for Marky and I?
Hi. The meatball truck is, well, there's a few of them. I think it's being repaired, and it might probably after that go to some football games and local stadiums, just when they come out and after the shows. But very proud of it because 10% goes to autism, so that's important, and the food is good.
Other questions? I've broken it before, it's fine. Made it for a better movie.
Who was it you told him you were going to talk to that pissed him off to where he hit you?
People like him.
You did Ginger Baker?
Did I know him?
You met him?
I met him, yeah.
What was that like?
No, later on, but I met him at the old Ritz, and he was drinking 151 rum and Coke, a pint, and he drank it right in front of me, and at that point, I stopped drinking. So it's very unusual, I'm smelling this, and it didn't seem to affect him at all, and he played great. This is when he was in Masters of Reality. And it was just a pleasure to be around him and just absorb what kind of person he was, Because I was very influenced by him, and he was one of the drummers that I felt had a style that really couldn't be duplicated, and I really admired that.
A lot of people have been saying, through the press and so forth, that the thing that Clapton was saying in the film with the Bonham couldn't swing a sack of shit, and Moon, if they were still alive today, ask them. I, obviously with film felt like they were incomparable in that they're just totally different. And they're more rock drummers and Ginger's more of a
Jazz.
Do you
drummer.
believe that too?
Yeah, I do. Keith Moon had a style, Bonham had a style. Could they play like Ginger Baker? I don't think so, but everyone has their own taste. Keith Moon was basically a great showman. Was he as technical as Ginger Baker? No. Was John Bonham great on just a 5-piece drum set? Yes. So each drummer had their own style. But there was another drummer from that era that was great too, which was Mitch Mitchell from Jimi Hendrix Experience. And, could Ginger Baker do Manic Depression in 3/4 time? I don't know, because that was such a great song. Could he play as good as that? Who knows? So everyone has a style, and it's what you like, but Ginger's style, I feel, was a lot harder to duplicate than, say, Keith Moon's and John Bonham's.
What did you get out of his style playing, being that you were so different from him?
Well, I was in a heavy metal band called Dust when I was 15, 16 years old. And I was in high school, and a year out of high school. And I did a lot of the triplets, the offbeats, and I played 5/4 time, like he was discussing up there. You could play 4/4, 2/4, and that's rock. When you get into 5/4, that's kind of jazz. Like Mission Impossible, that's 5/4. So I learned a lot from that, from drummers like that who were influenced by jazz drummers. Double bass drums. Who was playing before him? Louis Bellson, who was a jazz drummer. I think it was Ella Fitzgerald's husband. And he played the double bass drums, but not like Ginger Baker. But as a drummer playing in Dust, he was instrumental in helping me as a drummer go beyond the 4/4, 2/4 stuff that I grew up on, being influenced by Ringo and Dave Clark from Dave Clark 5 and all these other rock drummers. So that's why I loved him, and Mitch Mitchell. Those two were the guys that really influenced me a lot. And Keith Moon, again, they all had their own style.
Did you use 2 kick drums and Dust?
No, I had a 28-inch bass drum, and I had a fast foot, but I never used double bass drums. Did I ever try using them? Yes, and they were a lot of fun. But for what I did, I didn't need them to incorporate that into the music I was doing at the time.
So what's Baker doing now?
He's playing again, like the movie ended. He's in a band, and it's called Ginger Baker's Jazz Confusion, and if he could get a visa, they'd be playing here right now.
Is it Europe?
Working on it, but you know, even for the reunion, Clapton had to lobby the White House to get him here. They were, at one point, they considered sneaking him over the Canadian border and so forth. I mean, he definitely, I wasn't, you know, exaggerating the wake of destruction and IRS, you know, nefarious activities on his behalf.
When he referenced the legacies of rock stars who died prematurely, did you get the feeling that's a reference to Jimi Hendrix?
Well, you know, that was the most kind of tragic for me part of the film that I cut out, which was the night that Jimi Hendrix died, was a preclusion and also something that inspired him to go to Africa. And the night Jimi Hendrix died, Ginger went out and got coke for Jimmy, and it was like Surgic, I don't know, it was like hydrochlorine, codeine, I don't know. But it was like cocaine from the hospital or something. Anyway, he got distracted, he did it all, and he OD'd, and then he woke up and the doctor was like, you're alive, but Jimmy's dead. And he was, that was the point that he drove to Africa, and I also cut out the part where he first tried to drive to Africa, totally spontaneously, went to the gas station in his Shelby Cobra, and was like, fuck it, I'm driving to Africa. And he drove the car all the way to Morocco on a whim, and then drove it off a cliff, because he saw some chick. And I have the footage of the car over the cliff, but there was just so many stories like that that I just couldn't fit in the film. But yeah, the Jimmy thing, he was really good friends with Jimmy, and as Eric and Jack Bruce and Ginger will say, you know, Jimmy and I were about to do an album together. So, but they were, you know, they were close. It would have been interesting, Jack Bruce, Jimi Hendrix, and Ginger Baker.
You put those scenes in the DVD then that you cut out?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all there.
Did he say anything about Tony Williams at any point?
Yeah, he at the end of his life. Another part that I cut out was when Ginger was in M Boom with Max Roach, Tony Williams, and Ginger, and it was the three of them, and they played at the Verona Jazz Festival and did an album together, as well as the Pill record with Ginger and Tony alternated tracks with that Public Image Limited album, and they didn't mention who did what, and it was kind of like a scavenger. I mean, you could obviously tell.
You like Buddy Rich?
You know, I think they had a bit of a tiff at a certain point, and you know, I think Buddy Rich said something about Jack Nicholas. Him challenging me to drum battle was like Jack, you know, paraplegic challenging Jack Nicholas to a tournament.
Right.
But something happened where like Buddy Rich had been a jerk to some girl. I don't know. There was some beef there. But I honestly think it had to do with Buddy Rich being white. Like he just had this, you know, thing for, where he thinks that only, where he thinks, you know, only black people can play drums.
Well, the first drummer that he liked wasn't black.
Well, Phil, for sure.
Phil.
But besides that, you know, I've asked him. Gene Krupa, he's not a fan of, and Buddy, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's got to get over that color barrier. But Tony and he were really. He was a pallbearer of Tony Williams' funeral, so they were close.
Is he a righty or a lefty?
Ginger? I think he's just straight up ambidextrous, but Marky would probably know better.
He's all his four limbs. He could do anything he wants at certain times. It's like a pinch, like a hitter who can, you know, hit left and a hitter that can hit right. You know.
I think when Phil taught him to play, was one thing, and then, you know, Phil made him do everything left-handed, or, you know, the opposite, and so he, you know, started eating dinner left-handed, and, you know, beating people up left-handed. He just switched it up, so he got more Mickey Mantle with that shit.
So has Ginger seen the final product?
Yeah, he saw it 3 weeks ago. It was a triumphant moment for me, because I was really worried that he was going to put a hit out on me, and his response was, "I really liked the first half. The second half I had some problems with." Which I thought was probably as good as it's going to get.
Does he still communicate with Jack Bruce?
You know, it's funny, they have such an interesting relationship wherein, you know, he says, you know, he obviously slights him a lot and slags him off, but I think Jack has been there for him when he's had financial problems and so forth. Like, they're just brothers.
Great to see another reunion.
I think that one ended so disastrously that it will never. I mean, as far as Eric's kind of being back in the back of the car seat, and back in the back seat of the car again, and he obviously doesn't need the money as much as they do. Did you see the reunion?
Yeah, I did. Madison Square Garden.
What did you think about Ginger's drumming at the reunion versus, you know, Farewell and the videos from the past?
I thought using the DW drums was a different sound compared to the Ludwigs that he used when he was in Cream. I thought they were a lot more up front, and obviously the sound systems were better too. They're much better now. So I got to hear exactly what he was doing, and it was just unbelievable. Yeah, he seemed to have more energy than a lot of drummers that I know are in their 30s and 40s.
But could you hear those other chapters post-Cream in his playing?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, the African.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah?
Everything that was on the records, in the drum solos, it was still there.
But no, but I'm saying, like, as far as his evolution went, as a, you know, human to, you know, the continents he lived on post-Cream, could you hear it in the Cream music as far as his sound? How did
Well, you mean the offbeats?
Yeah, just
the offbeat rhythms. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's a guy that just grows and grows. There's a lot of musicians that are content to where they are, but he just continues and continues, and I noticed that even in the film.
Totally.
It was pretty bold of you to chase Ginger down like that and to say that you were a writer for Rolling Stone when you weren't.
Right.
How do you get his information, and what was it hard to get in touch with him, and how do you keep going and make it happen?
I watched that video, and then the next day I just went around and said, I'm doing a documentary about Ginger Baker, and then I eventually ran into someone that was like, well, you must be in touch with this person, right? And I was like, yeah, we talked yesterday, and then the next day I hit him up. And it's just like, you know, pathological optimism or something, but eventually I, you know, got in touch with the people that had the means of, you know, the line of communication with him, and I just kind of started calling him on the phone incessantly, and I don't think anybody else was, so he was, and he didn't have caller ID, so.
We have time for just one more question.
It was a weird moment when you asked him to take his glasses off, you know?
Yeah?
That was weird, like, I expected him to just throw his glasses at you, you know? It was really weird that he didn't, that he took his glasses off, and then, to me, he looked like really kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, what was your motivation about asking him to, were you wanted to see his eyes to see if he was fucked up?
I mean, I did a documentary with someone for, you know, a year where I never, you know, he sat there with, you know, his shades on, and I just thought it was appropriate because, you know, as a viewer and, you know, me as a filmmaker, you know, I just thought, you know, at least one, I mean, let's see what the guy is with the glasses. And I was obviously as tentative as you would expect. I was expecting him to throw the things off too, but it was like a moment of kind of defeat and conceit. And it was interesting because I didn't like edit the thing to be anything more than it really was, which was like, he broke my nose with a cane, but it was this day after he took his glasses off, and I got him to tell me some really personal things. He was in a totally very vulnerable state at that day. he had been like, you know, he told the paper how his wife was in this drug gang, and like it got out that she had been like smuggling drugs and like was in this gang, and so anyway, he was in trouble with her, and he felt like everything was falling apart again, which it was, and I took advantage of that moment, and I just thought, well, he's very kind of down and out, and I had this band come and play with him, and I cut that out too, but because they weren't good enough, but I was like, dude, you got to get back to playing, at least try. So I found the best musicians in South Africa, and they came and played with him, and he played for 10 minutes, and he was just like, I'm fucking done, I can't play anymore. And I guess what I was getting at was, you know, I went there to make a movie about the guy that drove across the Sahara Desert, and all of a sudden, when he takes his glasses off, I was like, geez, we're documenting the end of this indestructible force. So, like I said, when he hit me in the face with a can, at first I was really pissed, but then I was kind of like, I think this might signify something, which is without the money, he's back and he's playing, and he's like, you know, and I actually kind of like playing. And he's, you know, I don't know, he can't be killed, it's crazy. Which was the guy I wanted to make the movie about in the first place, so it made me, you know, happy to see that arc. Right? Can't be killed.
I could see him living to 100 and still playing. I mean, playing drums is a physical thing. It's like being an athlete. So if he at this point continues to take care of himself, he can go on and on.
Or not take care of himself.
Well, I don't know. He just seems to be indestructible, like you said.
Crazy, right?
You know? Yeah, like
But you must know some junk. Like, what is it about the heroin that affects some people in some ways where it almost like is there a factor of it that like it might be just keeping him alive?
You know what? When I was drinking, people thought that I was preserved. But you know, a lot of people who do heroin feel the same way. But that's not the case. It weakens your bones, your bone marrow, right, and a lot of things like you become brittle. So it could be a situation where it just didn't affect him.
Or he's drinking blood.
You know, I don't know. I mean, I knew a lot of junkies, but they weren't as physically fit as he was.
Right. He smokes 5 packs a day, and that was the first time he played in 5 years.
I just can't believe that.
Yeah,
it's
crazy. Right?
For a drummer to smoke 1 pack a day can definitely be a hindrance.
Thank you so much for
coming.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you. All right, thank you. All right.